Here's integrated 3. It's problem 6-50. It says solve the following inequalities. Represent each solution on a number line. So it's an inequality rather than an equation. So we're going to still kind of treat it like an equation, and we're going to go ahead and solve it. Okay, we're solving for x. So diamond problem. Looking for something that multiplies to make -3 and adds to make -2. 3 times 1. Okay, so your first step in these is you want to factor these. And then we're going to test, we're going to draw a number line. They want us to draw a number line. And we're going to test some points, which we call them split points. A split point, it happens when our x, where the x-intercepts are. So this, I don't know if you realize it, this thing is a parabola. And so if I had to guess what this parabola looks like, I would guess that it crosses the x-axis at 3 and -1. So it probably looks something like this. And the reason we're calling it a split point at -1 and 3 is because you'll notice that the x-axis is where things change from positive to negative. Like the values, if I plug numbers in here, my values are positive values, positive y values, when I go above the x-axis, and they're negative y values when I go below the x-axis. They change from positive to negative as they cross the x-axis. So that's the whole reason why we're getting these like set equal to, or not really equal to, but we're comparing them to 0. So this here says that this left-hand side of my inequality is less than 0. Well, anything less than 0 means it's negative. So I'm going to start plugging some numbers in to these regions, and I'll use a pencil. I'm going to say there's a region to the left of -1, and a region in between -1 and 3, and there's a region to the right of 3. And I'm going to test points in each of the 3 regions to see if those are solutions or not. A solution would mean that it makes this left-hand side of the inequality negative because it says less than 0. So let's plug in negative. An easy negative number to plug in would be -2. So just in my mind, I'm going to say, well, I'll write it really lightly. -2 minus 3 and -2 plus 1. -2 minus 3 is -5. I don't even care what the value is. All I care about is that this is a negative factor. So I'm just going to write a little minus sign under it. And then -2 plus 1, that's -1. I don't care that it's -1. I just care that it's a negative value because now I can look and see that a negative times a negative, because they're going to get multiplied together, a negative times a negative equals a positive. But if this side is positive, it's not less than 0. So that I'm going to write an F for false right here. Because when I plugged in a number that was to the left of my split point, -1, I got a false. It didn't make the inequality true. So I'm going to go a little faster now. I'm just plugging numbers in. Usually I'll do it in my mind. I'm going to plug in 0 because that's in between, that's in this region. So if I plug a 0 in here, I get -3, so that's negative. Plug a 0 in here, I get a +1, that's positive. A negative times a positive is a negative. That makes the inequality true, so I'll write a little t. And then plug in a number that is to the right of 3, so maybe 4 would be easy. 4 minus 3 is a positive number. 4 plus 1 is a positive number. Positive times positive equals positive. That makes this inequality false. So now I know my solution region where it's the numbers that make this true are right here. So then I can use, there's different kinds of notation I can use. I'll just use that x is in between -1 and 3. If you know interval notation, you could write it this way too. This is not an ordered pair. This is interval notation, in case you know that. Is that all I had to do? Oh yeah, and then well, I have to mark it on the number line, don't I? So I'm gonna make this little thing. So maybe get rid of some of these extra lines and things. Okay, so you have a number line, and then you'll have a -1 and a 3. And I left these as open circles because I didn't have the equal sign there. Let's do the next one a lot faster. All right, so I want to get 0 on one side of the inequality. So I actually think I want to move the x squared over here. So I'll have x squared and move the 3x like that. Or I could just say, got to be careful when you do this. See, I made the alligator turn his mouth around so he's facing the right way. So that makes it a little easier to look at because now it looks like the last problem that we just did. And then I want something that multiplies to make 2 and adds to make -3. -2, oh, -2 times -1 works. Oh, I didn't need that. Okay, so now these are what we refer to as the split points. So there's one at 1, and there's one at 2. So I have some regions. So the region to the left of 1, I could just use 0. So I'm going to quickly plug 0 in and see if it makes my inequality true or false. So 0 minus 2, that's going to be a negative number. And 0 minus 1, that's a negative number. A negative number times a negative number makes a positive number. That makes this region true. Okay, then we'll just go again. We'll say between 1 and 2 would be like 1.5. So 1.5 minus 2, that's a negative number. 1.5 minus 1, that's a positive number. Multiply those together, you'll get a negative, so that's going to be false there. And then let's try 3. 3 minus 2, that's a positive number. 3 minus 1, that's a positive number. Positive times a positive is a positive, so that makes it true. So then we're going to, well, how would we write that? We would write that as x is less than or equal to 1. X is greater than or equal to 2. And then we can write it on the number line. Writing it on the number line is easy because you just look at your number line and just go. But we have to fill in the dots because of the equal to.